So yesterday we had this newspaper article from the Irish Times, and it says, quote, "Plans to introduce hate speech laws dropped as poll shows voters favour return of Fine Gael Fianna Fáil government." So if you've been aware of what's going on in Ireland, and further afield, Scotland introduced their hate speech laws, which quickly turned to a disaster because their own Prime Minister was effectively it was claimed that he was after breaking these hate speech laws by speaking about the level of whiteness in senior departments in the government. In addition to that, you have the arrests of protesters in England and they've been given unbelievably harsh and severe penalties for protesting. All the while, people who have been engaged in the most heinous of crimes against children are allowed to walk free with suspended sentences. So you have Scotland, England, and you have Ireland. So Helen McEntee, the Minister of Justice, or Minister for Justice, has been over the last few years pushing to get hate speech laws introduced into Ireland. And what these look like is that you would not be deemed to be guilty based on your acts. You would deem to be guilty of these based on the interpretation of somebody else's interpretation of your acts and of your motivations, which is a carte blanche for anybody who wants to target anyone that they deem an enemy or anybody that they deem to be in disagreement with them. They could target them and charge them with hate speech based on their subjective interpretation of another person's speech or another person's actions. Predominantly speech, though. So it's not so much what you say, it's how other people feel about what you say that determines whether you're guilty or not. So Helen McEntee has used her position to try and force this through on numerous occasions, even though I am yet to meet one person, once this law is explained to them, the nuances of this law and how your guilt would be determined by these laws. I'm yet to meet one person who is in favour of these. So, on the surface, plans to introduce hate speech laws dropped. That's a good thing. It's a common sense thing. However, the caveat to that is that those in power now at the moment, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, and the rest of the Dáil, to be honest, minus a handful of good people in there, they now believe that the polls favour them to such a degree that they will get back into power should a general election or when a general election is called, thereby minimising the use that they would have for hate speech laws for people to be able to criticise them, right? Or for people to be able to exercise their constitutionally protected right for freedom of expression. Okay? So, the dark side of this is that none of these politicians have come out and said, we're dropping this because it's a terrible idea and none of us should have ever put it forward. None of us should have ever backed it, because people in Ireland have a constitutionally protected right for freedom of expression. And we as public servants, our job is to uphold that. Our job is to uphold the constitution of this land, the laws in this land, which involve simple things like the ability to move your tongue and create sounds and convey meaning and convey messages verbally. This government wants to shut that down. At the moment, they're saying that the hate speech elements have been withdrawn from the laws, right? However, due to the fact that none of them have come out and openly criticised these and said that they should never be put forward because they're totally lawfully reprehensible and they're immoral, number one, but they're totally unlawful. They're unconstitutional laws that they're trying to push through. So, provided that these people remain in power, these hate speech laws will continue to be pushed forward. And I would imagine if these parties get back into power in the next general election, you will see full steam ahead for these laws to be implemented. You've seen it with Leo Varadkar having to step down when his him and Roderick O'Gorman's, their referendum on the change of the family in the Constitution, when that fell apart, that was decided to be totally not in line with what Irish people want. Leo Varadkar stepped down. There needs to be a fall guy, right? But the whole government should have stepped down because of that. Because they have showed, they were explicit in their promotion of this, of wanting that referendum to go through with a yes vote. So they should have stepped down, because it's explicit now that they are absolutely not in line with what the Irish people want. And this hate speech law is just another symptom of that. So long as this government and these parties are in power or gain power in the future, they will continue to plough ahead with hate speech laws. It's a given. And if you believe that they've seen the error of their ways, you would be silly and naive to believe that that is the case, because none of them have come out and stated that as such. Okay? So they'll just drop it for the case of the elections, because they know it's going to put voters off. And that's how you know that the reaction of the Irish people to this is a negative one, because otherwise they will plough straight ahead with it. While also telling you that, yes, the most of Irish people agree with this. But if they felt that, then why would they drop it, okay? Because they know Irish people don't want it. But they're going to continue pushing for it. And they will drop it so much now before an election in the hope of holding on and retaining some votes and maybe gathering a few more votes. But these people cannot be trusted. They have nailed their flag to the mast. They are not in line with what Irish people want. The laws that they're intending to implement are absolutely to the detriment of Irish people. They are to the detriment of anybody that wants to stand up and critique or criticise these politicians, and the absolute disaster they are making of this country. So while this is a positive, it also comes with the caveat that this will continue. They will push this through so long as they retain any sort of power in this country. Every one of these politicians, McEntee nearly at the top of them, they need to be disqualified from holding any position of power forever. They also need to have their bank accounts audited, because I would love to see where they're making their money from. Go and look up the net worth of these politicians, and then look up their salaries and ask yourself how they're making this money, right? So never accept this. Never even entertain the idea that this thing needs to be brought in, because what it will do is it will put you in the shackles, and the person that gets to determine whether you're guilty or not is not you and your actions. It's how someone responds to the things that you say, which is an absolute scandal.